Dear participants, it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you to this Info Day on the Horizon Europe Health Cluster. My name is Pilar Aguar Fernandez, and I am the Director of People, Health and Society Directorate in DG Research and Innovation. The Health Cluster, or Health Program, is the shared responsibility of 4 Commission DGs who are working closely together to deliver the health work programs. I would like to welcome my colleagues Marco Marcella from DG Santé, Lucilla Scioli from DG Connect, and Laurent Mouchel from DG HERA. My colleagues will also be addressing you in a moment. Let me start by saying a few words about what you can expect from this Info Day. The purpose of this event is to present to you the 26 calls of the health cluster and the rationale behind it. You will be given an introduction to the research and innovation topics in the work program, as well as the opportunity to ask questions in a dedicated Q&A session. Sessions on cross-cutting issues relevant for all applicants will be also made available to you. So, the Health Work Programme 26-27 was published on the 12th of December 2025 on the European Commission's Funding and Tenders portal. It covers 2 years and is the final health work programme under Horizon Europe. As such, it places particular emphasis on impact and uptake, as well as addressing remaining gaps. The work programme is closely aligned to the Commission political guidelines, notably in relation to resilience, preparedness, artificial intelligence, and biotechnology. It also contributes to the implementation of the Strategy for European Life Science. In this context, health research and innovation also plays an important role in strengthening Europe's competitiveness and strategy autonomy. The work programme is framed against a backdrop of multiple overlapping health challenges, including climate change, non-communicable diseases, mental health, antimicrobial resistance, and pandemic. Finally, a people-centered approach runs across the work programme, the entire work programme, with attention to equity and access, and with data, digitalization, trust, and citizen engagement recognized as key enablers. So let me now turn to the calls and topics opening in 2026. The 2026 calls and topics open today, 10th of February 2026. The deadline for submitting your proposals under this call is 16th of April 2026, of course, and the results of this 26 call are expected by the end of July. The work program is structured around 6 chapters or destinations as defined in the Strategic Plan 25-27. Each destination aims to deliver specific health-related impacts. As a successful applicant, your project will contribute directly to implementing the Horizon Europe Strategic Plan and the Commission priorities, delivering solutions to health challenges that will benefit citizens in Europe and globally. Let me now give you a brief overview of the topics open for submission in 26. So, Destination 1. It focuses on helping people of all ages stay healthy, resilient, and independent in a rapidly changing society. In 2026, the focus is on prevention and empowerment early in the life course. So we're looking for behavioral interventions that support young people in adopting and maintaining healthy lifestyles, with the aim of reduction of the risk of non-communicable diseases later in life. We also have a dedicated action on building public trust in the life sciences, recognizing that citizens' engagement and science communication and trust are essential enablers for the innovation and uptake. Destination 2 aims to ensure that people live and work on a healthy, promoting environment, with specific focus on climate change in the 2026 goals. So this year, we're focusing on improving our understanding an anticipation of the impacts of climate change on human health. We're supporting the transitions towards climate resilience, prepare carbon neutral populations and healthcare systems, and also strengthening the international cooperation on climate change and health research. Together, these actions support both climate adaptation and mitigation while protecting the population's health. Destination 3 addresses gaps in our understanding, prevention, and management of diseases. So we aim to reduce the disease burden across Europe. In 2026, we focus on preventing the harmful effects of digital technologies on the mental health of children and young people. We also focus on advancing research on post-infection long-term conditions and developing novel vaccines for viral pathogens that have or may have epidemic potential. This vaccine topic contributes to the EU preparedness agenda, and my colleague from DG HERA will provide you with further information on this in a moment. In 2026, this destination also aims to strengthen multi-sectoral approaches to non-communicable diseases by supporting research on the implementation of interventions in sectors and settings which are beyond traditional healthcare systems. The focus is on low and middle income countries, as well as unserved or disadvantaged populations in high income countries. We also address critical knowledge gap in cardiovascular diseases with a strong and explicit focus on sex and gender specific mechanisms, determinants, risk factors, and disease pathway. In addition, efforts will focus on scaling up innovation in cardiovascular health by improving coordination, knowledge sharing, and uptake across initiatives in Europe. My colleague from DG Santé, Marco, will tell you more about these cardiovascular topics, which are very closely related and linked to the Commission's newly published cardiovascular health plan. Now, Destination 4 aims to improve healthcare systems, making them more efficient, more sustainable, and more equitable. In 2026, the focus is on deploying innovative, integrated, personalized care solutions through public procurement, and on reducing low-value care, which means care that doesn't add a value for patients or health systems, to improve their efficiency, their quality, and their equity. Now, Destination 5 explores the potential of new health technologies, including areas of relevance for small and medium-sized companies. In 2026, this includes advancing what we call new approach methodologies, or NAMs, such as non-animal and in silico methods, to improve biomedical research and regulatory testing, providing follow-up on funding to help consortia to advance on the regenerative medicine results from previous EU-funded research, and also strengthening the coordination at European level, contributing to an ERA action on new approach methodologies, the NAMs, and establishing a European network of centers of excellence for advanced therapy medicinal products. Finally, Destination 6 focuses on maintaining an innovative, sustainable, and competitive European health industry. In 2026, this involves strengthening regulatory research for EU-funded research projects to support the translational development of patient-centered health technologies and to help innovations reach patients faster and more safely. I hope that this brief overview of the Health Work Programme 26 was useful. And now I have the pleasure of giving the floor to my colleague, Marco Marcella, who will present DG Santé perspective on the work programme. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Pilar. I am Marco Marcella, Director for Digital, EU for Health and Health System Modernization in DG for Health and Food Safety, and I am delighted to speak to you today. Over the past 5 years, our teams have worked closely together to connect health research and health policy. In the meantime, a new mandate outlined an impressive list of priorities, which has been set out by our Commissioner's missions letter. At the end of last year, the College adopted a major, ambitious, and comprehensive package of measures, including a Biotech Act, revised rules for medical device, and a Safe Hearts Plan. And last but not least, the Council and European Parliament have reached an agreement on the pharma package, representing an important update in the EU pharmaceutical legislation, significantly strengthening the pharma sector in the EU. It is one of our key responsibilities, together with the completion of the European Health Data Space. The aim is to improve health of EU citizens, while ensuring the long-term resilience and competitiveness of health systems. We have two key instruments to help us advance these political health priorities: the EU for Health Programme and the Health Cluster under Horizon Europe. The European Health Data Space, artificial intelligence, crisis preparedness, health promotions and disease prevention, mental health, resilient health systems, together with the implementations of health legislations, are common priorities for both programs. All these contribute to the same objective: improving human health and well-being. As new health threats and challenges have emerged, we must continue to make healthcare systems more effective, accessible, and resilient through our health policies. Let me now briefly introduce some actions in the Horizon Europe Cluster 1 Work Programme 2026 that directly contribute to the common health priorities I just mentioned. There is one action under Destination 3. It is related to the scale-up innovation in cardiovascular diseases. This is expected to leverage research and innovation results to improve risk. There are a lot of opportunities for synergies between EU for Health and the Health Cluster. However, the challenge is the deployment of sequential synergies between Horizon Europe and EU for Health. And this would be our next step. The aim is to facilitate further development and deployment of new knowledge and technologies in fields like non-communicable diseases, health systems, digital health, and many others. Building on Europe's visions of innovation in health, we intend to show how we can leverage cutting-edge technology and health data to tackle cardiovascular diseases, with the EU Safe Heart Plans drawing on the success of Europe's Beating Cancer Plan. Work linked to the new European Biotech Act may shape future common priorities. This will boost innovation in health technologies assessment, clinical trials, putting Europe at the cutting edge. To support the development of the European health data space, results from Horizon Europe projects on cross-border data use should feed into EU for Health actions. I encourage you to have a look at both funding programs and their work programs and find what opportunities are there. Thank you very much. And now I give the floor to my colleague Lucilla Scioli from DG Connect.
Thank you, Marco. My name is Lucilla Scioli, and I'm the director of the AI office in DG Connect at the European Commission, and I represent the co-chair for digital policies in the health cluster. I would like to frame the health and AI activities into the framework and the policy framework of the artificial intelligence policy in the European Union. First, I would like to recall that the EU is determined to become a global leader in AI. And last year, we launched the AI Continent Action Plan, which sets out bold actions under 5 pillars. And we have been very busy implementing this plan. In October, for example, under the adoption pillar of the action plan, we launched an Apply AI strategy, which helps in providing flagship actions for the full adoption of AI in what we consider to be the strategic sectors in the European Union, and that, of course, includes health. And it focuses on a bottom-up sectoral approach, proposing targeted initiatives to support the adoption of AI in these strategic sectors. So when it comes to healthcare, we have two flagship initiatives: establish AI-powered advanced screening centers and set up a network of expertise on AI deployment. We also have two flagship initiatives for pharma, which are launch an AI drug discovery challenge and propose actions to streamline and enable quicker market entry of medical devices. And the strategy also proposes to strengthen the role of European digital innovation hubs in this context. They will become experience centers for AI, a one-stop shop that help organizations to deliver more efficient processes, more innovative products and services through AI, and also the health sector if this is needed. Now, moving to what is the regulatory simplification pillar of the AI Continent Action Plan, the Commission presented in December a digital omnibus legislative package, which also addresses AI, in particular through its chapter on the AI Act, and tries to facilitate compliance, enhancing access to high-quality data across Europe, and other objectives. And it also works hand in hand with the Data Union Strategy, which was also recently launched by the Commission. And the strategy implements the data pillar of the AI Continent Action Plan. It introduces initiatives such as the data labs that will help companies and researchers by giving access to diverse data sets for AI, and then also provide data-related services. Now, to keep up with the increasing global demand for AI expertise and talent, we launched an AI Skill Academy as part of the skills pillar of the AI Continent Action Plan. And this academy is a platform which is designed to facilitate and develop a variety of educational and training programs on AI. And finally, when it comes to compute, it's a very important part of artificial intelligence. The Euro-HPC joint undertaking has established additional computing infrastructure that we call AI factories. And this will significantly increase the computing power available to researchers and innovation for the development of AI. And of course, this is also going to be very relevant for the health and the pharma sector. In fact, now we have set up a number of AI factories, and the factories bring together the key ingredients that are necessary to create cutting-edge AI models and applications, which is computing power, but also data and talent. And they foster collaboration across the European Union. They link different supercomputing centers with universities, with SMEs, with industry, and with financial actors. We have already invested 10 billion euros between 21 and we will finalize in 27. And so far, we have 19 AI factories across the European Union, and at least 15 of these will be operational by the end of this year. And many of these factories will actually offer services for the health and the life sciences sectors. And therefore, the participants to the research and innovation projects funded by Horizon Europe can apply to use the AI factories, which will also be upgraded in the future to gigafactories, which will be offering even more computing capacity. Now, I have summarized the recent policy developments in AI that will greatly support European research and innovation in the coming years. But I would like to highlight the two upcoming AI and digital health technology topics in the current Horizon Europe Health Cluster Work Program. Both topics belong to Destination 5 of the Health Cluster: developing and using new tools, technologies, and digital solutions for a healthy society. And one topic will focus on virtual human twins for prevention and diagnosis, The other topic will focus on building a community and a roadmap towards achieving artificial intelligence in healthcare. The calls for proposals for these topics will be open for submission in 2027. And so the topics will be presented in next year's Info Day. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. And I will now give the floor to my colleague, Laurent Mouchel from DG HERA. Welcome.
Thank you, Lucilla. Hello, everyone. My name is Laurent Mouchel. I'm the Deputy Head of HERA, the European Health Emergency and Preparedness Response Authority. HERA was created in September 2021, building on the lesson learned from the COVID-19 pandemic. The mission of HERA is to strengthen the ability of the EU and its member states to prevent, detect, and rapidly respond to cross-border health emergencies. And by doing so, we are trying to make sure that we have the right medical countermeasures available. We look at the whole value chain, starting from intelligence gathering, support to research, innovation and development, all the way to distribution and stockpiling. During the preparedness phase, HERA is tasked to monitor potential threats, collect intelligence, and develop preparedness and response actions, including R&D for medical countermeasures. In this context, the promotion of research is crucial to accelerate the development of diagnostics, vaccine, and therapeutics for future health threats. HERA has identified 4 main categories of threats, including respiratory and contact-based viruses, such as enterovirus and Lassa, vector-borne and animal reservoir viruses, such as dengue. Our focus is not limited to pandemic threat. It also includes AMR and CBRN. These threats were identified in the EU medical countermeasure strategy that the Commission launched last summer. This strategic document supports HERA medium to long-term vision on preparing Europe for the next health crisis. To give you some example, under Horizon Europe, apart from the dedicated calls to support new vaccine, antivirals and monoclonal against a wide range of viral families, there is a strong commitment to continue the development of EU-wide initiatives such as the Pandemic Preparedness Partnership and the One Health AMR Partnership. As foresaw at the time of HERA's creation, it was expected that Horizon Europe contributed with a substantial budget of 1.7 billion for HERA's mission from 2022 to 2027. This amount was seen as necessary to support the development of innovative solutions for the prevention, diagnostic, and treatment of pathogens with pandemic or epidemic potential. In 2026, HERA will prioritize innovative vaccine development targeting infection disease with epidemic potential, specifically for Arena, Anta, Paramyxo, Picorna, and Toga viruses. This initiative complements previous Cluster 1 work program by addressing viral families prioritized by HERA that have lacked attention previously, so that we have a comprehensive coverage of all areas. Let me emphasize 2 other critical topics for the 2026 work program that also contribute to the implementation of the EU MCM strategy. First, the European Partnership for Pandemic Preparedness. This partnership is committed to creating a resilient research ecosystem, enhancing clinical trials, and filling preparedness gaps through a One Health approach. It plans to roll out a joint translational call for proposal for multinational interdisciplinary projects scheduled for early 2026. Secondly, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, CEPI, is a global initiative dedicated to advancing vaccine research for pathogens posing epidemic threats. With EU grant support, CEPI will distribute money to third parties for both advanced preclinical and clinical research on new vaccines aimed at preventing emerging and re-emerging infection disease. In an era marked by accelerating biological threats, climate-driven infection disease, geopolitical instability, and strategic dependency, investment in pandemic preparedness is not just a cost, but a strategic choice with long-term returns. Sustained investment in preparedness is essential not only for public health, but for EU strategic autonomy, sovereignty, and security. The Commission's Preparedness Union strategy was presented in March of last year, which has paved the way for a more coordinated EU crisis response in full respect of member state competencies. The Commission has also recently adopted a prevention, preparedness and response plan to strengthen joint governance and capacity. These are strong signals that pandemic preparedness and response continue to remain high on the agenda of the new Commission. Thank you very much for your attention. On behalf of my fellow co-chairs of the Health Cluster and myself, I wish you a very informative and fruitful Info Day.
Thank you, Laurent. Hello, my name is Stéphane Hogan, Head of Unit for Health Research at the European Health and Digital Executive Agency. I would like to welcome you to the Horizon Europe Info Day for the Health Cluster for Work Programme for 2026. We have just heard presentations in the policy basis, rationale and objectives of the 2026 work programme by the co-chairs for the Horizon Europe Health Cluster, who represent the 4 Directorates General that oversee part of the Work Framework Programme. In a moment, I will present the Health and Digital Executive Agency, or HADEA, how it works with the European Commission. Then there will be a question and answer session on the cross-cutting aspects of this year's funding opportunities. And finally, we will have a series of question and answer sessions for each of the 6 destinations of the Health Cluster, which will cover all the topics of Work Programme 2026. Please remember that you can send in your questions via Slido. However, please take care to draft them carefully and clearly so that we can do our best to answer you. I will now present the agency and its role in supporting the European Commission in implementing the Horizon Europe Health Cluster and other work programs. The executive agencies, like HADEA, are established and supported by the European Commission to implement direct funding programs on its behalf. HADEA is operational since April 2021, managing programs representing almost 20 billion of investment. HADEA also manages projects launched through earlier programs such as Horizon 2020. HADEA implements specific funding programs related to health, food safety, digital, industrial, and space research over the period 2021 to 2027. Here are the programs implemented by the agency, with just over half of the total budget dedicated to health. This includes the EU for Health program, which has a budget of 3.8 billion over the 7 years, the Health Cluster of Horizon Europe with 5.6 billion, as well as the EU Mission on Cancer with another 760 million euros. I would now like to outline the respective roles of the Commission and the executive agencies to implement Horizon Europe. In other words, who does what? In short, one can say that the European Commission defines policy, while the executive agencies turn this policy into action. So the Commission, in consultation with the member states, defines the strategy and priorities for each cluster, and ultimately translates this into the annual work programs containing the topics that are featured in the calls for proposals. The role of the executive agencies is to implement these work programs. In practice, this means publishing the calls for proposals, organizing the evaluations by independent experts, preparing the grant agreements for the short-listed proposals, and monitoring their projects throughout their life cycle. The Commission intervenes to make the key program decisions, including, for instance, approving the choice of experts identified by the agencies for the evaluations, approving the outcome of the evaluation, and selecting the projects to be funded. The agencies also provide feedback for policymaking and support communication activities. Finally, the Commission oversees and assesses the work and performance of the agencies. At HADEA, in the case of the Horizon Europe Health Cluster, we report to 4 Directorates General of the European Commission: DG Research and Innovation, DG Connect, DG Santé, dealing with health and food safety, and DG HERA, the European Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Authority. This is the portfolio of health research projects currently monitored by the agency. So far, there are 473 Horizon Europe projects ongoing, stemming from the first 4 years of Horizon Europe calls for proposals for the health cluster and the cancer mission. An additional 93 projects from the 2025 calls for proposals are expected to be added in the coming months. The vast majority of these are research and innovation actions, with an average grant size of around 8.5 million euros. In addition, HADEA monitors 165 ongoing health research projects from Horizon 2020. I would like to conclude with an overview of the schedule of the 2026 calls for proposals. The deadline for most topics is 16th of April, but please check the work program for your topic. Proposals would then be checked and evaluated, with results expected at the end of July. Thank you for your attention. Please stay informed of developments at HADEA, and my best wishes in your endeavors to apply for EU research funding. Hello, and welcome to this question and answer session on cross-cutting issues. My name is Stefan Hogan from HADEA. I will be your host for this session. And I'd like first to introduce our experts for this session. So Elmar Nimesgern, who is from DG Research and Innovation and can speak about the clinical studies template. Lorna Schreffler and Gianandrea Gaetani dell'Aquila d'Aragona, who will both speak on international cooperation. Then we will have Kimberly Kouvens-Lieber from the National Contact Point for Germany, and she will be our expert on social science humanities integration. We also have Adina Ratzoy from the Health Research Unit of HADEA, who will be able to answer questions on proposal submission and evaluation. And finally, Gianmarco Sapone from the Operational Finance Unit also of HADEA, who can talk about financial aspects. So we'll get right off to the start. We have some questions, and please remember, if you have more questions, do not hesitate to add them via Slido. Please spell them out clearly so we can understand and answer them. So the first question, I think it's for you, Elmar. When should the clinical studies template be used? It seems not relevant for many proposals. Elmar.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for having me. So I would like to emphasize that this is an offer for applicants at stage 2 to provide all the necessary details for the clinical studies projects, and hence it should really be used when you have a true clinical trial project. Now, I admit that there may be some borderline cases, but really look at what is expected from you to describe. On the recruitment, the intervention you're going to use, your randomization procedure, your data management plan, your governance of the clinical trial. And if those things are relevant for your proposal, then please use the template at stage 2. I need to also emphasize that whilst we offer this template, and it is really highly recommended, and we actually write that you should use it for a clinical trial, it is not technically and legally obligatory. So if you have a very straightforward clinical study, you might describe everything in your technical scientific description of the proposal, but really use this as an opportunity to provide all the necessary detail. And let me conclude by saying that from experience, that before we had the clinical studies template, my colleagues and I have certainly seen quite a few proposals that were not, going very far in the evaluation because, they had missing some of these detailed aspects that are important to properly evaluate a clinical studies application. So we really would want the idea of this template is to help you in not forgetting that you need to describe all those things for your particular study. Should there be one item that isn't relevant for you because your study doesn't apply? I mean, for example, if you have a medicinal product that you use off the shelf that is prescribed maybe even by the physician in the trial, and the study subjects gets a product from a pharmacy, I mean, then it's obviously enough to describe that or to explain that this is a product you're going to be prescribing and people will be using. So no need to go into all details about this medicinal product. But if you have a study at much earlier stage, then this information on how is it formulated, what is the product about, what is your placebo, where do you get this from, this is really all very important. So I hope this is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Elmar. I think the next question is for you, Adina. Where can we find the conditions for each topic?
Good morning. Indeed, the conditions for the topics are in the work program, which is published in the funding and tenders portal. So please, before you decide which topic is relevant for you, clearly read the work program, clearly read the eligibility conditions, clearly read the destination to which each topic is linked, what are the expected impacts for the destinations, also what are the requirements for the topic, and also what are the expected outcomes for the topic. It is very important that these are clearly understood. And of course, in addition to that, if you have any sort of additional questions about that, you can also link to or communicate with your national contact point. We have national contact points for all EU member states, associated countries, and also other third countries. So please read clearly the work program. And then for each topic, there is also a dedicated page in the funding and tenders portal. And we wish you good luck.
Thank you, Adina. I believe the next question is for Kimberly. SSH integration is considered important in SSH flagged topics. We would like to include SSH participants in a non-SSH flagged topic. Could this be equally important?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Most definitely. If you see that it would be very relevant to helping the project to achieve both the project's objectives as well as the expected outcomes of the project, even though it's not an SSH flagged topic, then you are more than welcome to integrate partners coming from the social science and humanities into your research.
Thank you, Kimberly. And I believe this next question is on international cooperation and more specifically on China. Could you please share more information on the China restrictions in Cluster 1?
Yes, good morning. I'm happy to do that. So, of course, let me start by saying that this is linked, of course, to the overall line that the EU has when it comes to cooperation with China in science, technology, innovation. So, as a background to these restrictions, since 2019, the EU has worked to try to rebalance cooperation with China in the area of research and innovation through the discussion and agreement of a number of framework conditions for corporations that should be in place. These range from IP protection to access to R&I programs and mobility of researchers. And we did this through the negotiations of what we call a joint roadmap for the future of EU-China cooperation in science, technology, and innovation. Now, the reality is that after several years of negotiations, we have achieved progress in framework conditions linked to basic research, but we didn't manage to make progress on the innovation framework conditions, so for instance, on IP protection. And this is why the Commission took a decision to restrict the participation of Chinese entities from innovation-related actions. And with innovation-related actions, we mean actions that are at the technology readiness level of 4 or above. So indeed, there's a restriction on innovation actions when it comes to Chinese participants. There's also a restriction on research and innovation actions that have an innovation potential, while we have left open basic research cooperation in areas of our interest, and these are mostly in other clusters. So this is mostly linked to food, agriculture, biosolutions, climate change, and biodiversity. And of course, you can find more details on everything I have mentioned in the general annexes of the 26-27 work program. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jenny and Andrea. I believe the next question is for you, Adina. Can you give financial specificities for involving some countries outside Horizon beneficiary country in the consortia, though that may depend on the country and also on the specific call?
Indeed, it is very important that the applicants read the list of associated countries to Horizon Europe, but also they look on the list of countries outside the EU and which are not associated to see who is exactly eligible for funding. There is a list appended to the general annexes, which clearly defines what are those countries, in particular low and middle income countries. And those specific countries are automatically eligible for funding. So please check that list and make sure that you will be automatically eligible for funding. This does not mean that if you're not automatically eligible for funding, you cannot apply. Of course, you can also do that. You can also do it with your own resources or you can exceptionally request EU funding. So please check the list of participants to the Horizon Europe. As I mentioned, this is included in the general annexes to the work program.
Thank you, Adina. All clear. I believe the next question would be directed at Lorna. Can you confirm that Japanese entities can participate as beneficiaries starting from the 2026 calls?
Yes, there is, the association agreement of Japan has been, the negotiation have been concluded at the end of last year, and there is a transitional arrangement in place which will be starting from the 1st of January 2026.
All clear.
So the answer is yes.
Yes, and I think staying with you, will the Commission keep the option to provide funding to US organizations in most topics of cluster health?
Yes, there are no changes there, so be careful, look at the topics descriptions, the calls or topics where this funding possibility is available are clearly indicated in the topic text, and this stays as it is, so your reference is the work program as it is published.
Thank you, Lorna. I think the next question is a follow-up on the clinical studies template, but what about non-trials and single-stage proposals?
So at the single stage, you can use the template because you submit a full proposal right away. Now, it really depends on the topic, and as I said in the first answer, you should carefully evaluate whether the template allows you to provide more detailed information according to what is demanded in the template. Then that is a help for you because you don't need to describe it in your main part of the application where you have a page limit. And this technical detail that is requested in the studies template, does require sometimes some space to explain, but don't make it too long. Now, if you would have to answer not applicable or have to provide an explanation why you don't fill in the template in 98% of all the questions asked, then it doesn't make sense, obviously, to submit the clinical studies template. Then, the one or two places where you could put something useful, I think it makes more sense to put that into your main part of the application. But it is, as the name implies, a clinical studies template. If you have an actual clinical trial based on the experience we have had, it is really very useful for proposers, for projects to provide all the information so that the evaluators can make a best and informed decision. And as I had said, I have personally seen potentially very good proposals who were not considered very positively by the experts because they failed to provide detailed information on some of the technical aspects of the clinical study. And the template really provides that opportunity.
Thank you, Elmar. And turning back to you, Adina, can you please confirm whether proposals are evaluated exclusively on their content without consideration of whether AI tools were used during the preparation, whether there is any obligation to declare the use of AI tools in the proposal?
Proposals are evaluated by independent experts. They are evaluated as submitted and based on their merits. You will notice that in the part B, in the template of the part B of the proposal, there is a section that explains that applicants are allowed to use AI when they draft their proposal. However, they need to take full responsibility for that. They need to acknowledge that, and they also need to reference which parts of the proposals was drafted with AI. So once again, I would like to reiterate the fact that proposals are submitted based on their merits. And that's all. So please read this section in the template.
Thank you. And staying with you, what is the minimum number of countries required in the consortium?
That will depend on the type of action that the applicant would like to apply to. If we simply think about the coordination and support actions, you will need at least one applicant. However, there is an extra condition for each of the coordination and support actions topic that the coordinator needs to be established in an EU member state or associated country. If it's a research and innovation action or an innovation action, then the minimum eligibility criteria for the consortium is that there are 3 applicants from 3 different member states or associated countries. So please make sure that you fill in these requirements. For the PPI, as we also have a PPI topic, the condition is the same, 3 different applicants from member states, but there are also some additional eligibility criteria concerning the bias group. So it is important, again, that you clearly read the eligibility criteria for that specific topic. And something else that I wanted to add is that when you apply in the system, you will notice that the system will give you some warnings whether you fulfill or not the eligibility criteria. So please pay attention to the warnings in the SEP submission system. Also, there are some warnings at the very end when you have to validate the content of your proposal. The system will also give you some warnings there in case you do not meet the minimum eligibility criteria.
Thank you, Adina. And this is so important. We unfortunately still have proposals being declared ineligible each year because they fail to fulfill these basic requirements. So really something to pay attention to. The next question is about lump sum funding. Do we have an update on in the lump sum funding Excel spreadsheet? Last we heard was that it was going to be replaced with a more user-friendly alternative. Now, I don't know if Adina or Gianmarco will answer this question.
I think I will take it. So there is an updated version of the template. You will see that once the topics or the calls will be open today, later on. The Excel table has not to really change that much. There will still be macros. There will still be that you will need to use. There will still be instructions that we recommend you to follow. There is one sheet at the very beginning when you open the Excel table with a lot of instructions on how to use it. But in itself, the template has not changed much compared to previous versions. Please use it wisely. And something that we always recommend the applicants is that once you start filling it in, there is also at the very end, there is a tab called Any Comments. Please use this tab to encode any kind of additional information that could help the experts, the independent experts, to assess your proposal. In particular, in case you have, let's say, higher costs than the average costs provided in the dashboard, please also use to explain any other situations concerning the specific cost of a partner that you could not have otherwise explained in the specific tab of that partner. So for the time being, there are no specific changes, and the applicant will have to use a very similar template to the one from the previous years.
Thank you, Adina. And I think we're going to have to stay with you for the next question as well. How many people should be on each team in each participating country? Can research staff, doctoral students or doctors participate, whether or not they are affiliated with the university?
I think that there is no specific number. When you fill in the template, you will have to encode the name of the staff that will be involved for each specific partner in that proposal, whether it's a lead researcher or whether they have a different role. So please make sure that you encode as many staff as it will be necessary for each partner to allow you to implement the project. So check part A when you fill it in, and make sure that you encode the names, their roles, also their publications, etc. But there is no minimum or maximum number that we could recommend. It will obviously depend on how many key staff you would need for the implementation.
Thank you. Now, I think switching back to international cooperation, can you clarify the hierarchy of eligibility conditions in General Annex? For instance, the CSA paragraph on legal entities established in the member states versus international organizations paragraph that states that international organizations be funded if considered essential.
Provided I understand the questions, and if colleagues want to chip in as well, please do so. In fact, the evaluation happens on merit. So if you have to do a kind of ranking between these criteria, actually the question, you have to be aware of the fact that usually international organizations are considered as established in non-associated third countries, so they are not automatically funded. But of course, if the topic specifies that they are exceptionally funded, or in your proposal you can demonstrate that that they are essential for the execution of what you propose to do in your research innovation action or other project, then funding could be exceptionally granted. It's always good to have a plan B. So I would say that it's rather than a ranking question, it's really more what the role of the international organization is in a given topic description, provided I understood the questions.
I think you did. Thank you. In lump sum projects, are organizations receiving an operating grant eligible for indirect costs?
I'm afraid that this question is not clear, if I may take it. Operating grants are different types of grants than the one that we actually work with. So we cannot really speak about operating grants in the context of our calls. But if the question relates to the indirect cost itself, yes, in the lump sum, applicants also are eligible to receive a 25% indirect cost to the different types of costs, for example, personnel costs or other costs, but not subcontracting. So the same rules for indirect costs apply also to the lump sum as in the normal actual cost grants, if this is the question.
Yes, I think you've managed that nicely. The next question, I think, is also maybe directed to you. For the two-stage calls, is there a budget template that should be used for stage one submissions?
For the two-stage calls, all the 5 topics that we have as two-stage, they will be lump sum, so they will have to use the Excel table that is already embedded in the list of templates in the submission portal. So please, for the lump sum table, fill it in. And submit it, and then of course in section A of the proposal, or in part A of the proposal, there is a very minimalistic type of budget table where you will only need to fill in the total cost per partner and the total cost of the proposal. Now, please make sure that whatever you encode as a total cost per partner in part A needs to match what it is in the lump sum budget table that you would have to fill in and submit with your proposal. And this lump sum budget table is mandatory. So please make sure that there is a consistency between the figures in part A and what you encode in the Excel table.
And can you clarify, Adina, if this budget table is necessary at stage 2 or already at stage 1? Because this is what this is.
Okay, sorry, I missed that part. It is only necessary at stage 2. At stage 1, you will only need to encode a global budget per proposal, but we do not have stage 1 topics in 2026. We will only have stage 2.
All clear. Gian Andrea, are Chinese universities allowed to participate in work program 26-27 topics? I think you've partly addressed this.
Yeah, I partly did, but I'm happy to clarify further. So, as I was saying earlier, I would encourage you to go to the general annexes and read how the China-specific restrictions are laid out. So in the general annex, you will find a section in which it is clearly and explicitly specified in which destinations and clusters Chinese entities can participate or not. So please use that as let's say a guiding tool. In addition to that, in the general annexes, you will also find a specific restriction linked to a handful of universities that fall under the administration of the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in China. And these indeed are banned from the whole program, but this is an exception. So this is only a handful of universities. So with regards to, let's say, the more general questions, if they are, if Chinese universities are or not, I would encourage you to look at the general annexes. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorna, I'm going to turn to you. For Korean participation in Horizon, is the minimum consortium of 3 independent legal entities from 3 different EU or associated countries, with at least one from an EU member state, still applicable?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
In general, this is the rule.
Yes, I think this, as was outlined earlier,
Yes.
the minimum requirements of 3 independent legal entities from different EU associated countries with at least one EU member state applies to all topics, except perhaps the coordination support actions, when only where only one participant is necessary. So despite regardless of what other participants you have in a research innovation action, you do need to meet this basic requirement. The next question, what resources do you recommend for finding complementary EU partners? Perhaps this is for you, Kimberly.
Yes, there are a number of different useful tools, I think, or resources that you can access. You could start, for example, within your own networks, your own universities or organizations, especially if you have, say, a grants office. They often know of what's going on research-wise within the organization and can help direct you to potential partners. Otherwise, of course, you can reach out to your national contact points. They are there to assist you. Another tool that you could use are all of the NCP network projects, for example, Net for Society, which is for Cluster 2. So if you are looking for partners coming from the social sciences and humanities, you could access Net for Society's community platform, which is a tool that allows you to search for partners. You could put your own professional profile as a researcher or say from a university or another organization in and specify the sort of research partner that you're looking for. The European Commission offers a similar tool via the funding and tenders portal, but the tool that I mentioned for Net for Society is also one that is offered by all NCP network projects. You would just simply need to go to the websites of these projects via, say, the NCP portal, and there you can locate this information, or of course reach out to your NCP in case you're having difficulty locating this information in this particular resource. You can also, of course, go to brokerage events that are organized by all of the national contact points in coordination, say, with the European Commission Info Days. There are also opportunities to locate partners this way.
Thank you, Kimberly, and also the opportunity to recall that for the health cluster and for all other areas of the framework program, there are national contact points for all the member states and associated countries, and indeed some third countries, and they are there to help you apply for EU funding.
Indeed, these are the templates from last year, but please use the templates that are in the submission system. Do not use other templates. They are indeed the 2025 templates. So please do not use anything else but what you see in the submission system.
Thank you. I think that's clear advice. In case a beneficiary wants to transfer ownership or grant an exclusive license, what should he do? I'm not sure who's ready to answer that question. Lorna, thank you.
Again, under the control of other colleagues, because it's not directly linked to international cooperation, but it might be. So indeed, there is this condition known as a right to object, which is in the current work program indicated in the calls where this applies. But usually what is being asked in case basically the granting authorities to the Commission has to verify this request, usually beneficiary must provide detailed information if they want to plan this transfer. They have to basically describe which results are concerned, what is the identity of the prospective owners or licensees, and make a kind of assessment of the EU interest, competitiveness, ethics, security that are at stake. But you find more information in the model grant agreement, and I would encourage to look there for further details.
Thank you, Lorna, for stepping in for this question. The next question is quite specific. Is the UK allowed to participate as partner joining the consortium in the call PPI Integrated Care Destination 4, which and the topic details are listed. I believe the ideal would be to check in the Q&A sessions for that destination, the destination care. However, in principle, the UK is allowed to participate in all actions as a full partner, joining the consortium and being one of the first 3 partners even. But let's refer you to the Q&A session if there is in case there are special conditions for this PPI on integrated care, which I'm afraid I don't know. I don't know if anybody has that answer on the panel. I don't see any hands up. So let's move on, refer you to the other Q&A session, which will follow during the day on each destination, as you heard earlier. Please advise on whether a non-EU organization is able to lead a consortium for environment health 4. Are activities restricted to EU region, or can they be undertaken by low and middle income countries? Lorna, can I ask you about this one?
Yes, perhaps then in the following session, the colleagues dealing with that specific topic may want to mention, but additional details. But if you can be a beneficiary, so indeed, if you are possibly eligible as a beneficiary as a low and middle income country, and this I refer to the list that was mentioned earlier in this session, then in principle you are able to be a consortium leader. So the idea is that if you are a beneficiary, you can lead the consortium. So this of course applies to entities based in the member state and associated countries, but in the case of low and middle income countries that can benefit from funding, this is in theory possible. We would like to remind you that, of course, being a consortium leader takes a lot of resources and extra effort. So it's always important to take that into account when putting yourself forward for this specific role. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question: how can we find who is the national contact point in Spain, for example? Well, I believe all this is available on our website, but maybe Kimberly, you can guide us to the exact spot on the funding and tenders portal?
Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to look again exactly where, but yes, I would agree with what Stefan just mentioned. You can go to the funding and tender portal and you can look for your national contact point in your country. Or, as mentioned, if you're not certain, you could contact your local country's NCP and ask them if they can help you determine who that individual is.
If you're on the...
Yeah. Sorry.
Please, Adina.
In the funding and tenders portal, there is a tab which is called guidance and documents. And there you can find the NCPs per country, and there is even a filter where you can filter per country, and you can see who exactly the person is, specifically for health in many countries, or for other clusters if you're interested. So just go to the guidance and documents, and then there will be a national contact point. There is a specific link to that.
Thank you. Thank you both. When can the granting authority object to a transfer or licensing? I'm going to tentatively ask if Lorna is ready to follow up on that area, or...
Yeah, I can, but we can also transfer perhaps the question to our colleagues in-house and follow up later. But the idea is that the decision to grant or reject the request is a policy-driven decision, which will be based on analysis of economic, ethical, and political elements linked, as I said earlier, to the competitiveness and other aspects of protection of EU interests. So that would be basically policy-driven choice, which it's hard to predict in advance. Yeah, but we can also follow up internally and perhaps publish a written answer.
Yes, indeed, these are quite specific, and I would say rare situations. But we can follow up. Indeed, please come back to us more specifically in writing. We heard in Switzerland that if the vote on limiting number of inhabitants to 10 million was accepted in June, Switzerland might be kicked off of Horizon Europe as a beneficiary. Is that correct or not? What would happen to submitted projects? So, Lorna, I'm going to turn to you with this tricky question.
Tricky question indeed, and perhaps not the time to speculate on that aspect. But normally, my understanding, and here I also speak again under the control of the executive agency's colleague, but for ongoing projects, those are preserved. Usually, I mean, even if there is a termination, those ongoing are not retroactively affected, of course.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. Interesting. So we're running out of questions, so please don't hesitate to send us more. In the meantime, here we have another one popping up. Please don't hesitate to send us more questions. We still have a little bit of time. If the second stage submission is for this April, but the topic and the first stage is from 2025, which template for part B should be used? The updated one for 2026 or an older version? I think this is the question that you already answered, Adina.
Yes.
You can say it again.
So the applicants will have to use the 2025 templates, and please only use the templates in the submission system, not other templates.
So it should be difficult to use the wrong one, but people can be very, but we know people can be very creative. So thank you. For organizations interested in coordinating a project, how relevant is previous experience as a coordinator? Are there realistic chances without it? Could you provide recommendation how best to approach this? Well, I'll say a small comment, and then I'll encourage Adina, who also has a lot of experience with this, and anybody else who wants to chip in. It's not, of course, relevant experience will help you. That's inevitable, just for any responsibly. But it is possible to be a first-time coordinator. There have been hundreds of first-time coordinators. You have to be a first-time coordinator at some point. So I would not let that detract you, but make sure that you get good advice, that you follow all the rules, pay attention to the basics, the eligibility issues that some of which we've spoken about, basic things like page limits, that you address all the criteria very well. All three criteria are important. You need to meet the threshold and do better for all three criteria. Other recommendations is work with your national contact points. They can be a very good sounding board, and in many cases they can help check how you're doing. Adina, do you want to add something to that?
I think, Stefan, you've said it all. Indeed, nothing should prevent applicants from becoming coordinators, even if they don't have experience. But as you said, I think the basic thing is that they know the rules and they understand the rules very clearly. In addition to that, they can also refer to the model grant agreement that provides specific information on what will be the role of the coordinator, not just simply putting up a consortium and helping the other applicants draft the proposal, but there would be many other tasks that they would have to handle. And of course, as Stefan mentioned, working also or reaching out to your national contact point is also it is also very important. So it is not impossible to be a coordinator, to become a new coordinator if you have not done it before, but just know the rules.
Clear advice. Kimberly?
Maybe if I could just briefly add to what was already said, what's also really important is to check internally within your organization that you have the requisite resources available, because one thing to be aware of as a coordinator is that there is a lot more administrative responsibility associated with this role in comparison to being a partner in the project. So that's something to keep in mind, is making sure that you have the necessary support within your organization to help you fulfill your requirements as a coordinator.
Indeed, and if you're part of a large organization such as university, your grants office can perhaps even guide you to other colleagues who have done this successfully in the past, and they can be good sounding boards and chaperones to help you along. Adina, again, for you, for the 2025 two-stage calls, when will the portal open for the second stage submission?
The portal has already opened and the applicants have been notified. So please check your emails or go to the portal. And if you are experiencing any kind of difficulties, IT difficulties, please contact the IT help desk. But the portal has been already open for the two-stage participations for the successful applicants.
Thank you very much. All clear. Some topics include international cooperation is encouraged, in inverted commas. What exactly does international mean? Non-EU countries? Lorna.
Yes, those topics are indeed, when this is written, it means that the dimension and the logic of the topic encourages or would benefit from international cooperation. It means indeed non-EU countries. And in particular, non-associated third countries. Something that is interesting for you to explore if you have identified one of those topics and would like to apply is to use the funding and tenders portal. You will see that there are cross-cutting flags also for specific world regions. It can be Africa, Mediterranean. There is a flag for ASEAN and one for Latin American Caribbeans, and also check, for instance, if those countries are, appear on that filter. That would also give you an indication of the areas that could be worth exploring and partnering with entities in those countries in those topics.
And we have the next question, which is again about Switzerland, and maybe an opportunity to clarify that Switzerland continues to be fully eligible in the coming calls. Lorna, would you like to intervene on that?
Yes, Switzerland is fully associated and eligible in the coming calls.
I mean, despite
That
rumors.
was the question.
Yes,
Yeah,
indeed.
there are rumors indeed, but there the rules of potential termination of association would apply. So as I said before, there is a room for maneuver if that happens, but at this current stage, it's not something that I would consider if I'm an applicant. I would just treat it as a fully associated country.
Okay, thank you. And next question, I think we can put to Adina as well. Is there a preference for a coordinator being a company or an academic, i.e. a university?
No, there is no such preference, of course. We already answered the question before about coordinators, whether they should be experienced or not. So indeed, there is no preference for the type of entity that should play such a role in the consortium.
All clear. What are the capacities a coordinating team should have in place to be able to shoulder this burden, the burden of coordination? What are the challenges beyond what the work package leaders have? So we're getting into tricky. I think I will ask both Adina and maybe Kimberly to say something on this. What are your views on that?
Kimberly, would you like to start?
Yeah, I can go first. So you need to, for example, be within your organization. It would be really important that you have, for example, a controlling office, for example, that is maybe familiar with the handling of EU grants, because there's usually a big difference between the way grants are set up and implemented at national level versus EU level. So that's one thing. It's also making sure that you have staff, for example, who also have some familiarity dealing with EU grants. If they don't, it's not impossible. Of course, they can do trainings, and it's possible to learn. So being unexperienced is not necessarily a barrier to coordinating, but it's good to make sure that you have those that sort of capacity in place in your organization, so that you're following the rules properly, you're understanding where to gain access to the information that you need, and having that sort of I guess you could just say knowledge in place to help you properly implement. As a coordinator yourself, you would be responsible essentially for overseeing the work done by the individual work packages and leaders. So you need to just keep an eye on what's going on in the project, making sure that all work is being met and fulfilled by deadlines, meeting reporting periods, things like that, because as coordinator, you would be responsible more for the financial elements of the overall project. I don't know, Adina, if you wanted to jump in and maybe add anything to this point.
I think your answer was very complete. I would say, indeed, you need to know how to plan, how to organize, how to how to be aware of what's happening in your project and how to communicate with your partners. So make sure that you have also within the consortium the right communication tools to reach out to the partners, and also make sure that you are very familiar or become very familiar with the IT tools that we use at the Commission, because most of the reporting will have to be done through the IT tools provided by the Commission. So these are also other, let's say, important things that you will have to handle as a coordinator. But I think Kimberly covered most of the tasks that would fit into the remit of a coordinator.
Yeah,
Maybe just to add one final point, if I may. There are also what are known as legal and financial NCPs. They're slightly different in terms of their area of knowledge in comparison to thematic NCPs. So you can always reach out to the legal and financial NCPs in your country, and they can help also navigate you through the more technical, say, financial elements associated with proposals. So I would say work with both your thematic and your legal and financial NCPs, because they can really help you be successful in coordinating.
This is indeed a very important point. Thank you for all that input. I would also suggest to also check the presentation on financial aspects, which has been provided and recorded on the conference website. I don't know if Gianmarco, you want to add something on the financial aspects, but this is a very comprehensive presentation on including all the roles and responsibilities of the coordinator on financial aspects. Gianmarco, do you want to add something?
Yes, maybe just clarifying to everybody which are the main cost categories and which are the main differences that should be taken into account when claiming cost at the time of the reporting periods. So the main cost categories which we could have are subcontracting and purchases cost, which of course the eligibility rules is the price charged to the beneficiary. So normally it contains a profit margin for the supplier or subcontractor. Then we have the category of we have the affiliated entities, which in which the no profit is allowed. So the eligible costs are the cost of the affiliated entity. So it's really important at the time of reporting to differentiate among subcontracting costs, purchase costs, which are also divided into, of course, many other categories there are, but the main categories which you need to take into account at the time of reporting and payment are these categories. So it's important to have clear in mind the division of the costs and also the contractual link, which of course is which undertake this the different types of contractual link.
And indeed, I think you underlined those financial intricacies, which really underline the need for some good capacities on the financial management within the coordinating team. I think that's all clear, and that's also just to underline also what Adina mentioned on communication, because of course the coordinator, it's himself or herself, has a leadership role, but also a role as a communicator within the consortium and towards the agency in our case. And these are really important. So next question is turning back to international cooperation, but with quite a specific question, which might be topic specific. International cooperation with African countries is encouraged, but in the destination, we don't know which one, the phrasing is on European cities, etc. Does this mean one cannot focus on African cities as well? I think this is going to be maybe something that could be asked more specifically in the topic presentation. So in whichever topic, whichever destination this topic is under, we really urge you to join that Q&A session later on today and ask that question there. I don't think we can ask because this is really to do with the wording of the topic. So now next, yes.
It has to do with the GACD topic, which is in destination 3. So maybe this question could be asked within that destination indeed.
Destination 3, a little bit later today. Thank you, Adina. Beyond the formal requirements, what types of general recommendations you have for composing a convincing and successful consortium in research and innovation actions under Cluster 1? Well, that's a vast question, which I'll open in a moment. But really, it really depends on what you intend to do with your project to bring together the right capacities and expertise within your consortium to be able to convince the experts that you will be able to reach the objectives you are presenting in your project. Adina, do you want to add something to that?
I think, once again, it comes down to understanding the topic. If you have a bright idea and you know that it might fall into a specific topic, try to read it and try to see what that topic covers, what type of areas of expertise the topic covers, and then try to find the right partners in those areas of expertise. That's how I would try to answer the question. I'm not sure if Kimberly would maybe want to add something to that or other colleagues, but yeah.
What I was thinking here also, I fully agree with what was said in terms of making sure that you match the expertise to what is, so the expertise in your consortia to what is being asked for in terms of the research and the outcomes of the project. But maybe a plug here also for SSH integration. If a topic is also either explicitly or maybe implicitly leaning towards, say, interdisciplinary or transdisciplinary cooperation as a major component of the sort of research that should be done, then you need to make sure that you also have the right sort of partners that bring that required expertise into the project. That doesn't mean that they have some sort of innate interdisciplinary, say, expertise, but more so they have expertise on a certain type of, say, method or knowledge on a certain dimension of the research that's being asked for, and that should definitely be part of the consortia as well.
Thank you again, both. Next question. Can ministries be a partner of the project? If yes, then at what status? Well, indeed, ministries and regional authorities can be part of consortia. This is a very frequent occurrence. At what status? Well, it really depends on their role in the partnerships. I think they can even lead projects. There's every possibility. Would Adina or Kimberly like to complement that?
I would say that indeed they are allowed to participate, as you mentioned, Stefan, in co-funds. Of course, they can either lead a co-fund, although this is not so. I have not seen it in the past as much, but for the 2 co-funds that will open this year, there are very specific conditions for applying. So, for example, the coordinator needs to be the coordinator of the previous co-fund. If we strictly refer to co-funds for other topics, of course, they are allowed to participate as partners or affiliated entities, or actually affiliated entities. Maybe it's not the right type of let's say status, but as partners, definitely they can apply.
Thank you. And the next question, I think, is also quite straightforward. Could an international entity like WHO or similar be part of the consortium? And the answer there is yes. The funding issue might be specific. I think they need to make a case and convince the evaluators that their participation is essential to the project in order to receive funding. But in any case, they are eligible. I think we can move on to the next question if there is any other question. I don't see the next question. If not, we can have a final round with just general comments from colleagues who want to emphasize a particular point. And while you reflect on that, colleagues, I would recall a couple of very simple pieces of advice also to ensure, for instance, that both part A and B are there and that they are aligned. That is also an area of weakness sometimes. We talked about the clinical studies template when appropriate, the budget table for lump sum topics. So these are important. And also, very basic issue, do not submit at the last minute or even on the last day. Prepare yourself. You can have a preliminary version of your proposal in the system, which you can even update, but maybe not at the last minute. You are taking chances with potential IT risks at your end or at our end. So please do not do these things. And also to recall all the resources that we have available. There are a lot of recordings on the conference, on the InfoDay webpage, including the recordings covering all the 2026 topics per destination. The recordings on presentation on cross-cutting issues, such as SSH integration, financial aspects, information on the clinical studies template. All this is available on this site. And also the recordings from today's Q&A sessions, such as this ones, and all the destination-specific Q&A sessions will soon be added to this InfoDay conference page. So back to each of you. We have about 3 minutes left altogether to cover one last message. Start with Elmar.
Yeah, no, thanks really for all the good questions that came in, and it has been very interesting to follow also the answers from the colleagues. I think on the clinical studies template, there's nothing I can add. I would really emphasize the point that the proposals have to be carefully put together. Don't underestimate the time to get everything in order, and take your time from the Part A, Part B, and the clinical studies template as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorna?
Yes, thank you, and thank you to all for the questions. I would just have one message. When you think that teaming up with international partners will add a lot of value to your proposal, please do so, and indeed don't hesitate to check for which topic this is encouraged, because it can really add an extra value, and it's one of the features of Horizon to be open to get the best scientific excellence out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Gian Andrea.
Thank you very much, and thanks again for the questions. I mean, on my side, what I would say is indeed to keep an eye on the eligibility conditions of each topic, but also very important, don't forget to look at the general annexes, because a lot of explanations on potential restrictions and the way they are applied are also there. Thank you.
Kimberly, please.
Yeah, thank you from my side as well for all the questions and also for the very interesting responses from the colleagues. My takeaway message would be please to take seriously any instances where you do see a request for the integration of social science and humanities expertise in topics. If you are having trouble understanding what's being asked, then please reach out to your national contact points, and also to underline the importance of submitting a version of your proposal as early as possible into the system. You can always override it so that you don't run into problems when it comes to the final submission.
Perfect, thank you. Adina.
Thanks for all the questions, and to the colleagues. I just wanted to add, in addition to what was already said by the colleagues, once again, do not leave it for the last moment. And make sure that you use the right templates, make sure that you read everything, and just do not hesitate to ask questions to clarify points related to a topic. You can do that via the portal. We are happy to answer these questions and to help you clarify aspects in the topic. And good luck to all of you.
Thank you, Adina. And Gianmarco, some final word of advice?
Thanks a lot for the questions. Just maybe a final remark on the, let's say, on the budget flexibility for the applicants, just to say that the budget of Annex 2 is in principle an estimation. So in case you need, it's always possible to swift budget and to reallocate it between beneficiaries, between affiliated entities, and between cost categories. So it's really important to remark this, and that there is this flexibility. So yeah, in principle, this does not require an amendment. So yeah, good luck to all the applicants. And if in case you need, of course, you can check specifically case by case with your financial officer.
Thank you, Gianmarco. And
thank you.
If I may conclude with 2 short messages. First of all, I thank all the speakers and all the people who sent us questions. They really helped us put a lot of points to you, and this was quite rich. And yeah, my 2 messages are about experts. The first one, it's about the fact that we review your proposals with independent experts. bring together the right expertise, and we are always looking for new experts. So please consider registering as an expert and detail out your expertise so that we may call on you to help us with evaluations or project monitoring. And finally, if you have feedback about this event, we would really like to receive it. There's a link to a survey on the InfoDay webpage, so please do not hesitate to send us your feedback on the event later on today. Thank you and have a good InfoDay.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Destination One, Staying Healthy in a Rapidly Changing Society. I am Beatrice Lucaroni. I will be your moderator for the session today, And connected with us today are Roel van Overmeren and Nora Allavoine. Today we'll be answering your questions on the topics of the destination. We have two topics. If I may have the next slide. Yes, both topics have opened actually on the 10th of February. They will close on the 16th of April. Topic number 2, so our first topic, behavioral interventions as primary prevention for non-communicable diseases among young people, will allow to fund 2 free projects. Topic number 3, which I call in this session our second topic, building public trust and outreach in the life sciences, is a topic for a CSA as opposite to the previous topic, which was a RIA, and this will allow funding 1 project. I will invite you to post any question you might have in Slido. Some have arrived yet, and I suggest that we now go to the questions that have arrived. So we have a first question. This is for Roel. Is it sufficient to focus on behavioral risk factors for major non-communicable diseases like tobacco, nicotine, alcohol, stress, inactivity, rather than on a single disease outcome, provided that the link to major NCDs is clearly justified? Roel, over to you, please.
I think... Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I am unmuted. Okay, sorry. So first of all, thank you for your question. I think the answer is first of all, that there is no single behavioral aspect that is connected to one NCD. So there are multiple behavioral aspects always. Secondly, I would say that it's important to reread the topic and see that it's not just about behavior itself. It's really about NCD. So I would say reread the topic. It's not just behavior. So I would say, yeah, and I would not advise only focusing on behaviors.
Thank you, Roel. And next question is also for you. Does the Commission consider innovation in delivery, integration across settings and digital support of existing interventions, rather than development of new interventions as sufficient innovation under this goal? So basically it's around the word innovation, which appears several times in the topic. Can you please elaborate, Roel?
Indeed, again, thank you for your question. I think it's a very relevant question also for the topic. So when you implement and you tailor an intervention to a specific context, that in itself is often already an innovation. So yes, the adjustment of the intervention towards the context can be considered innovation.
Thank you. And another question still for this topic, would it be acceptable to implement different evidence-based behavioral interventions in different countries, as long as they target the same risk factors and share comparable core mechanisms? I think this is an excellent question, and I will let you answer why we think this is a very good subject.
In short, I think it is interesting to spread out the different interventions if they indeed target the same core issues across different contexts. But at the same time, of course, you need to always make sure that your intervention is adjusted to the specific context. Of course, I don't know if that actually answers the question. Sorry.
I think it does, but we're also looking at the perspective of the outcome, really, of the topic, right? So this is healthy longevity in the end. So we're addressing prevention with behavioral sciences in young people, and therefore, the more the best practices, etc., are spread, this is important, I guess, right? So,
Indeed.
and I think this topic seems to be quite popular, so I'm sorry for that, but still with you, Roel. From the Commission's perspective, what would be the main weaknesses of an implementation-focused project using existing evidence-based interventions? And what would reviewers most critically look for in such proposals? So this question has two parts.
I think for both, actually, in terms of what would be seen as the weakest, is first of all, again, I think it's not meant to go around and make new interventions. So you really need to implement an existing intervention. And again, the innovation is in implementing it into a new context. In terms of what the reviewers will look like, in terms of innovation, etc., I think that's on the tenders portal. So I would advise applicants to look there on what criteria it will be judged. Yeah, that's actually all I can say about that.
Good. And another question, are neurodevelopmental disorders considered non-communicable diseases?
So, and I think it's good that this question came up because I think it's going to be a quite regular question of applicants. What an NCD is, there's of course WHO definition of it, but there are also other types of definitions of it. But it's up to the applicant actually to show that what they are choosing is an NCD. We are not the judges of what NCDs are or what are not. That is really up to the applicant, and if the applicant makes a good case why it's an NCD, for example, it's been internationally recognized to be an NCD, that's already a good case for an NCD. But we don't have a list of what an NCD is and what is not an NCD. So I would advise every applicant to make the case in the proposal, and that's all I can advise.
Perfect. And the next question refers to the text of the topic. We have excluded cancer. So the question is, why is cancer excluded from this topic?
That's actually quite an easy answer. We have a whole dedicated mission to cancer. I know that cancer seems an obvious candidate for NCDs, but with this topic, we actually want to focus on things that have not been covered actually by a mission, namely the cancer mission. It's huge. And we simply wanted to focus on other NCDs that might have gotten less attention throughout the years.
Good. I see a question which for me looks quite difficult. I will read it out and let's see if we can give it a try to answer. Not real definition by WHO. And then there's a quote, NCDs linked to behavioral, metabolic, environmental, and socio-economic risk factors.
So for the first part, I suspect that it means that the WHO has not defined it, but I was simply saying, my point is simply make the case for why why the thing you are choosing is an NCD. I mean, again, an NCD is a quite common term in medicine, and there are numerous ways of showing that something is an NCD. An NCD has certain characteristics show that what you're choosing is an NCD. I know, for example, that it's sometimes like borderline. Sometimes people will see mental health as an NCD, sometimes not. Again, it's not just make the case for why what you're choosing is an NCD, because the NCD part does relate to the behavioral aspect, the reason for the topic. So simply state why it's an NCD, and reviewers will see that it's relevant for the topic, for the project as well. For the second part, I am not 100% sure, to be honest. If you could repeat the second part of the...
Well, it was about the risk factors. So behavioral, metabolic, environmental, and socioeconomic risk factors. But maybe what we can do, as I see that we have a lot of questions, we can ask the author, unfortunately anonymous, for this question, maybe to go back to Slido and explicitly write more about this question so that we can really give it full attention. I suggest in that spirit then that we move to the next question. It's about the age brackets which define the youth in the topic. So what is the background, the reason for the call being limited to include the ages 12 to 25? Is it possible to choose to include only some of these ages, for example, 12, 15 years old?
Yes, actually, that's actually the example provided even in the question is what we've recently mentioned at other meetings as well. It's 12 to 15 is perfect. You can choose 15 to 18. The reason why we chose that is because there are again, these definitions are very all over the place. I realize that some people will not see 25 anymore as being part of the youth. Maybe some people say that 10 is earlier, should be the under limit. So first of all, inside that age bracket, you don't need to do from 12 to 25. You can use a subgroup. So 12 to 15, 15 to 17, whatever suits your topic. Secondly, and that's an important clarification, is that if, for example, somehow you have data, which might be because, for example, if you do, for example, intervention in a class or something, it might be that there are younger children in there. For example, you might aim for people of 12 years old, but there might be children there from of the ages 11 or 10. That's still okay. The point is that the main focus is on age groups that overlap with what is described in the topic. So if it's, for example, a little bit from 10 to 15, still okay. It's not a hard deadline, not a hard cutoff, but of course you cannot do a topic on, for example, 6 to 9. That's outside the range of the topic. So the concluding remark I want to make here is 12 to 25 is not the strict range. You can use sub ranges, and you can even do a little bit overlap with ages outside this age range, but you cannot go outside the age range completely.
Thank you, very clear. It seems that this topic is extremely popular. So we now have a question: would reducing the impact of social media on eating disorders or risk factors for them, as well as mental health indicators through programs in secondary schools, be a fit topic for this proposal?
I think it will be difficult if I have to say for every topic, because I'm also not the evaluator. I mean, we wrote the topic, of course, but I think you need to read the topic text clearly. So it has to be, first of all, about NCD. It has a certain age range and needs to be about behavioral interventions for the prevention of those NCDs. So if, for example, you're doing something on social media addiction, so then you need to show that social media addiction is, I guess, an NCD, and then you need to have a behavioral intervention within inside the age ranges. Again, I cannot say for each specific project proposal if it will fit or not fit. I think that, again, it really depends on how you will justify doing the approach you do. I think it's still quite flexible. So NCD is a broad term. I think behavioral intervention is a broad term. So really justify it as best in a way that makes sense to both you and you would think reviewers. And that it really is all I can say about that. Again, what I like I said earlier, the mental health is sometimes an NCD, not sometimes isn't an NCD. Justify it as an NCD, and I think that will be fine. Again, that doesn't mean that for the specific proposal, like the specific topic that has just been mentioned, that it's okay. I am not here to just say this is okay, this is not okay, because that's I would also need time to even think about that. And again, it's up to evaluators anyway to judge whether it fits or not.
Right, thank you. I see the next question, which is not for us. This is for another session. It speaks about the templates for Yeah, exactly. So thank you. And I see another question. Some NCDs are related to the abuse of social media, for instance, obesity, metabolic diseases, and so on, as well as mental diseases. Is this included also if there is a specific topic on social media, or is it excluded? So this is a similar type of question, similar to the one that we just handled. Over to
Yes.
you,
So
Rul.
so again, so actually also to reiterate, I think where was my first or second answer, namely, be careful in this topic not to confuse behavioral aspects with NCD. For example, if you want to battle social media addiction, then you need to battle the NCD as an NCD, not as the behavior itself, if that makes sense. So you need to approach it as an NCD that you want to prevent, whether primary or secondary, through behavioral interventions. It's not just about, for example, the earlier example was about smoking. Yes, you can do behavioral intervention on smoking, but the topic is not about behaviors. The topic is about behavioral interventions for NCDs. So keep that in mind when writing proposals. It should really be on NCDs.
Thank you for this tip, Rul. Now turning to Nora, regarding the repository of tools and support for risk communication. Since such tools already exist, what added value are you expecting under this project?
Thank you. Yes, indeed, so we're asking the project to make an accessible repository of tools and raise awareness around it. And we helpfully in the topic list some of the places where such tools already exist. So the added value that we expect from this CSA is the awareness raising side of things. The tools exist, yes, but we need them to reach the people who need to know them. This is a CSA, it's support, and part of the support we want you to provide to the life sciences community is to make them aware of what tools exist there for them to build public trust. Another important aspect that's written in the topic is that we want you to tell us what the long-term plan is for the continued accessibility of these tools beyond the life cycle of the CSA, which has a 3-year limit in lifespan. So the reason this is a CSA and not a RIA, among others, is that we want this to be, by the life sciences community for the life sciences community as a way to ensure the sustainability of the actions undertaken, including this repository.
Thank you, Nora. I think we have exhausted the long list of questions. I would like to thank our speakers for sharing their valuable insights and for answering all the questions. I would like to thank you for participating in this engaging discussion, for your time and, of course, for your questions. We hope you found this event valuable and also informative. And of course, we wish you good luck for the preparation of your proposals. And remember that you can always ask your national contact point, check the participants portal, and reach out to our inquiry service in case, in the event you have additional questions. Please stay with us for the next event.
Good morning and welcome to this info session on Destination 2 of Cluster 1 Health, living and working in a health promoting environment. My name is Carmen Plaza and I am the Head of Unit of Health Innovations and Ecosystems, and it is my pleasure to welcome you and introduce you to the members of the panel that will help me to answer all the questions you might have. So it is my pleasure to introduce you Rita Araujo, who is the team leader on environment, climate and health, and Martin Uriarte, policy officer, also working in the Health Innovations and Ecosystems unit of DG Research and Innovation. So Destination 2 of Cluster 1 is the main Horizon hub for environment and health research. The main objective of this destination is to fill the knowledge gaps in the understanding of the impacts on our health and well-being of those risk factors with the most significant societal impact. In the work program 26 and 27, Destination 2 is fully dedicated to fund topics on climate change and health. This follows the publication of a strategic research and innovation agenda on this field that was published in June 2025, and that is defining the priorities that we would like to tackle in the years to come. It's important to note as well that the implementation of this strategy is one of the flagships of the recently adopted life science strategy. So we can move to the next slide where you can see the 3 topics that will be funded in 2026. The first topic is a research and innovation action with a budget of 55 million, whose main objective is to increase knowledge to support the reduction and anticipation of the impacts on climate change on health. The second topic, also a research and innovation action with a budget of 45 million euros, is aiming to increase the resilience and preparedness of communities and healthcare systems to the impacts of climate change. These topics is also aiming to include activities to support to increase the carbon neutrality of healthcare systems. Both 2 topics are 2 stages and both require clustering activities as mandatory. Actually, the cluster should be a vehicle to ensure that the outcomes of the projects are available to the Observatory on Climate and to the European Climate and Health Observatory. It's also important to note that for both topics, we encourage international cooperation. And the last topic is a coordination and support action with a budget of 3 million euros that is intended to build a secretariat that will support the successful establishment of a multilateral initiative between climate change and health funders. Let me remind you that in the InfoDay website, you can still find the videos where you can find more information about the destination and the different topics. So in case you have not watched them before, you can still access them. And let me also remind you that we will focus in this session on the content of the topics, as the prior session focusing on horizontal cross-cutting activities has already been held earlier this morning. And now I think I can encourage you to include your different questions in the Slido. Please don't forget to add the number to the question so that it's easy to identify the topic, the number of the topic.
Because this is an understudied area when it comes to the impacts of climate change. So we want to make sure that some of the projects that will be funded under this topic will cover the research gaps in this specific area. It is mentioned in the call that the proposal should choose one of the 3 areas. The 3 areas are infectious diseases, non-communicable diseases, and or individual safety, and this excludes mental health, and it's specifically mentioned in the topic. And the 3rd category is mental health. So the research proposals presented should focus in only one of these 3 areas that I just mentioned.
Thank you.
if the animal methods are the best possible are the best available methods. So this is the answer to this question.
Thank you. Next question is about the third topic that I mentioned. What type of organizations could you envision leading the coordination and support action? Well, I can answer that question. The coordination and support action, as I was mentioning before, is aiming to support the building of a secretariat, to support an initiative that is being currently developed to foster cooperation and alignment between funders working in the climate change and health space at global level. So this means that the coordination and support action will need to have a very strong component on supporting strategic, operational, financial, administrative, technical issues to ensure the successful establishment of this initiative. And therefore, what would be very important to the organization that could lead this initiative would be to demonstrate the capacity to effectively tackle all these aspects that I was mentioning. Next question is for Martin. It's on the second topic that I presented, and is asking, to which degree does the the topic of environmental health, encourage international collaborations with African countries, for example, on evaluating agroforestry there? Could that be a substantial part of a successful proposal? Martin, this is for you.
Thank you, Carmen, and good morning. Yes, indeed, activities proposed could be focusing around agroforestry activities in Africa, as long as there is a clear reasoning as to why agroforestry activities could have a positive impact on mitigation and on related health benefits. So the answer is yes, they could be within a scope. However, having said this, it is important to notice that the topic requires that some of the activities within a scope are carried out, meaning that 2 or more activities should be carried out. So in any case, a project just focusing on agroforestry in Africa would not be sufficient to be a valid proposal. It would have to tackle any or address any of the other activities within a scope of this topic.
Thank you, Martin. Next question is also for you in the same topic, and is asking what is meant by frameworks in the expected outcome, which mentions the healthcare sector is supported with new technological developments and frameworks for greening, decarbonizing, and adapting to climate change. So what is the meaning of frameworks there?
Yes, so by frameworks on this topic, we mean and we refer to guidelines and methodological approaches designed for assessing, measuring, decision-making related to the greening, decarbonization, or adaptation of climate change and health.
Thank you, Martin. Next question is also for you. It's about this topic, which appears as being very broad. Is it expected that each consortium tries to cover as much ground as possible, or is it rather envisioned that each consortium focuses on only some aspects and goes deeper there?
Yeah, thank you, Carmen, for this question, which I think is very, very interesting and probably relevant to many applicants. So there are no strict expectations as to how many activities and how broad the proposal should be in terms of the activities covered. However, having said that, the intention of this topic is not that proposals cover a very wide range of activities without going into much depth. Instead, we would like the proposals put forward proposals to build robust sets of activity that can cover specific activities within a scope in an excellent way. So we probably prefer depth over width of activities. In any case, going back to what we discussed before, any proposal should cover at least 2 or more of the activities in a scope. But as we say, there are no expectations for a wide, broad scope for the proposals, and that would not make a difference in terms of how good or less good a proposal would be, as long as that minimal threshold of 2 activities is complied with.
Thank you, Martin. Next question is also on the third topic, on the CSA, and is asking whether the CSA is also supposed to provide financial support to the activities of the multilateral initiative. And the answer is yes, absolutely. The coordination and support action could be expected to provide financial support. I can mention a few examples like supporting the gathering of the members of the initiative or the organization of events or on topics of interest or communication and dissemination activities. But that would be just example, as there could be many others that, of course, are, as long as they are supported to build this secretariat that I was mentioning before when explaining the topic. We can maybe move to the next question, which again is in topic, is for Martin on the second topic. And is asking in the sentence that says should include some of the following activities. Good proposals need to focus on either adaptation and mitigation, or do proposals need to mix the two? So to focus either on adaptation or mitigation, or need to mix both of them, Martin?
So the answer here is clear. So proposals do not necessarily need to mix adaptation and mitigation activities in the same proposal. There are some activities within the scope that are mainly focused on adaptation, while there are other activities that are mainly focused on mitigation activities. Therefore, a proposal can choose any of the activities within a scope, and a proposal could choose a number of activities on mitigation or a number of activities on adaptation, or a mix of both. Again, as long as they comply with a minimum number of activities in the proposal, that should be valid and admissible.
Next question is also for this topic and a little bit related. It says proposals should address most of the expected outcomes. Does this mean that funding chances are higher for proposals that address a large number or all of the outcomes than those focusing only on some?
The answer is no. A larger number of activities proposed would not necessarily translate into a higher scoring or higher chances of funding. So the answer is no.
Next question also in this topic is says that research activities should generate evidence on health co-benefits, as well as develop low-carbon medical technologies and digital solutions. Do consortia need to both? Well, I guess to do both, or can they pick one?
No, consortia don't need to do both activities. So these are two different activities within a scope. There is an activity around evidence, co-benefit evidence generation, and there is another activity which is around low carbon medical technologies development. And these are two different activities. So a proposal could decide to pick one of these activities, but not pick the other within the proposal. So the answer is no, there is no need to have a mix of both activities in the same proposal.
Thank you. And I'm glad now a question for Rita on the first topic. Does the development of longitudinal studies in the topic refer to the creation of new longitudinal cohorts, or can existing longitudinal cohorts be considered as well?
Thank you, Carmen. In the scope of this call, the development of longitudinal studies. When we include this topic, it considers both the collection of new data sets, but also the use of existing data. The option chosen on this matter should take into consideration only the relevance of each option to the research proposal presented. So we don't have any predefined conditions on this subject.
Another question on this topic, do proposals wanting to look at vector-borne diseases need to include the participation of low-income mid-countries?
The inclusion of low and middle income countries in the consortium for this topic is strongly encouraged, but this inclusion is not mandatory and should only be considered if it is justified and if it has added value to the proposed research plan.
The next question is on the second topic for Martin. Should research activities generate evidence on health co-benefits of mitigation only in the health sector or in general? And what is the definition of health sector? Does it include prevention, for example, mobility or food?
Yes. So I think this question is related to the previous question that we had on agroforestry. So proposals on co-benefits of mitigation do not necessarily be focused on healthcare sector mitigation. It could be focused on other sectors that may have an impact on mitigation and on related climate health co-benefits, as we discussed in the previous question on agroforestry. For the purpose of this call, as to the definition of what is the health sector, for the purpose of this call, I think we have a rather broad definition of health sector, where we would include more traditional definitions like healthcare organizations, public healthcare agencies, health insurers or payers, health infrastructures and digital infrastructures, and so on. But we would also include here other adjacent sectors that may be part of the supply chain of the healthcare sector. So, for instance, things like the pharmaceutical sector or medical products and devices, even things like the mobility or food sectors or food suppliers to the healthcare sector.
Thank you, Martin. So next question is also for you, is asking, this call appears to address two major issues. On the one hand, how healthcare impacts climate change, and on the other hand, how climate change impacts health. Is this a correct interpretation? Is it necessary to address both aspects in the proposal?
Yeah. So no, it is not necessary to address both aspects here, but I think we need to make a precision. When we are talking about how healthcare impacts climate change, that is a question that would need to be addressed on topic 1 of Destination 2, which is a topic focused on that precise question. On this topic, we rather address a different question, which is how the healthcare systems, or how can we mitigate the impact of the healthcare systems on climate change, as well as how can we adapt to the impacts of climate change on health. So mitigation and adaptation. So in that sense, as we said before, some of the activities within a scope are more focused on the mitigation part. So how we mitigate the impacts of the healthcare system on climate change. And other questions are more focused on the adaptation part, which is how we adapt to the impacts of climate change on our health, how we adapt populations for that. So proposals could propose a mix of both activities, or focus on one of the two parts of one of the areas of that we mentioned, either mitigation or adaptation. So in summary, it is not needed to address both aspects.
Thank you, Martin. Next question is, to which degree does the call, this topic, The second topic, encourage international collaboration with eligible non-EU countries like the US and low-income countries. Is it an advantage to include partners there? Maybe I need to remind that for both topics, international cooperation is encouraged. But Martin, maybe you want to develop more.
Yeah, and here I let you, Rita, and Carmen comment if you wish to as well. But international cooperation is indeed very much encouraged on this topic. In that sense, collaboration with LMIC countries or low and medium income countries, but also with countries like the US would be possible and encouraged if this is of added value to the actual proposal, of course.
Yes, this is extremely important. I mean, of course, this needs to make sense in the context of what the proposal is focusing. I don't know, Rita, if you want to complement on that, because international cooperation is also very important for the first topic.
Yeah, no, it's exactly the same answer. It depends on the focus and the scope of the topic that is being presented. Of course, for all the aspects related to climate change and its impacts on health, international cooperation is very relevant, but we cannot define this before seeing what is the focus of the proposal. So in general, for the topic, international cooperation is very important. The inclusion of low and middle income countries can be also very relevant, but it will depend very much on the focus of the topic.
All right, so next question. Proposals for the second topic should support the design of transferable interventions that can then be applied widely. Does this mean one is not expected to evaluate interventions, or just as case studies? How many would be recommended?
Yes. A point here. I'm assuming this question refers to one of the activities within a scope, which is the first activity mentioned, which is an activity around interventions in healthcare systems or in populations. Assuming that this question refers to that specific activity, then the answer the answer to the first question would be yes. So some sort of evaluation of the interventions would be required in order to understand the effectiveness, the accessibility, and the impact of these interventions. So in that case, the answer would be yes. However, there are no expectations or no recommendations as to how many intervention evaluations would be needed in this activity. But indeed, some sort of evaluation of the interventions would be needed to achieve that objective of understanding the effectiveness, the accessibility, and impact of the interventions. If the question is referred to any other activities within the scope, then that will depend very much on the actual question. So I wouldn't be able to discuss all of them one by one here, but happy to receive questions in that sense if it refers to any of the other activities in the proposal.
Thank you. Moving back to topic 1, there is a mention of injury and death in the call scope. What is precisely meant by injury?
I can take this question. So in the scope of the call, injury refers to incidents with impacts on health that are driven by climate change and climate change related factors. For example, physical injuries that can be caused by extreme weather events, or, for example, in the context of occupational environment, work-related accidents that result also from climate events. So it could be some examples of these, what we mean by injuries in the context of this call.
Thank you. You might wish to answer also to this question, Rita, on the coordination and support action, where the text of the call mentions that the coordination and support action should build on the preparatory work done. And what is the meaning of that?
Yes, thank you for this question. I think it's important that we clarify this. So in the life sciences strategy, which was published in July 2025, there is a flagship on climate change and health, and this flagship has 2 actions. And one of the actions is a proposal from the Commission for the development of a platform that wants to foster cooperation and alignment between climate change and health funders. So in the context of this work, some exchanges between like-minded organizations have been taking place in the last couple of months. And what we mean by building on the preparatory work then is that this collaborative work will not start from scratch when the CSA starts. So the collaborative work that was previously developed needs to be considered when the CSA starts setting up the collaboration and support for this platform.
Thank you. And we are running out of time. So maybe this is the last question that we can tackle. Oh, I see still another one. So it's on the first topic. Is it possible to focus on a specific subgroup of infectious diseases, such as foodborne or vector-borne diseases? Rita?
Yes, it is possible to focus on specific. We clarify in the call that proposals when addressing this area of infectious diseases can focus both on vector-borne and non-vector-borne diseases. So it's possible to cover both together or separately. Those options are possible.
Thank you. Now we go back to Martin's topic. Second topic, is technology part necessary? And if so, how much emphasis does this part need? What do you understand by technology?
Okay, again, the development of low carbon medical technologies is only one of the multiple activities within a scope on this topic. And therefore, a proposal may decide not to address this activity at all. So therefore, I think the answer is that proposals could, so the emphasis is, there is no specific emphasis. The proposals may decide if they want to address that specific activity or not. As to what do we mean by technologies, I think for the purpose of this topic, we define technologies as medical technologies that are used in the provision of healthcare. So it could be things like diagnostic technologies, therapeutic technologies, monitoring technologies, and so on. But also technologies that are adjacent or are part otherwise of the supply chain of healthcare systems. In this case, could be things that are not necessarily medical technologies, but are adjacent to the healthcare systems. Things like, for instance, heating or air conditioning technologies or waste management technologies, or even supply chain related activities and technologies like food management, etc. So that's what we need. What we define as technologies in this particular topic. But as we said, a proposal may decide not to address that specific activity within a scope on low carbon medical technologies.
Thank you, Martin. And we are getting to the end of this session. Let me remind you that you can, if you have more questions, you can still ask them through your national contact points. You can also check the participant portal or reach out the inquiry service. For today, I would like to thank you for having engaged so much and having asked so much very relevant questions. I would like also to thank both Rita and Martin for having addressed and tackled all your questions. And from my side, I would like just to wish you a lot of success for the preparation of the proposals. And please stay with us for the next destination in a few minutes. Thank you.